Her shout broke the quiet in the saloon. It was not loud. It was the sound that made men stop drinking for a moment, just to look. Eva knelt on the dirty wood floor. Her hands were tied. Blood and dirt were mixed on her skin. The shirt she wore was ripped and hung from her arms, hardly hiding her shaking body. Every part of her body told a story. Dark bruises like plums on her hips, dry blood on her knees, a cut still bleeding near her head. She looked 19, but her eyes had already lived a whole life of fear. The crowd watched her like a group of wolves. The air was full of whiskey, sweat, and hunger. The owner of the Silver Spur Saloon, Simon, smiled as he hit his hand on the table. $30 to start, his voice rang against the walls. This one is clean, never been used, fresh like spring rain. Laughter roared, coins clinked, a man yelled 40, another went up to 50. Eva tried to cover herself, but the rope cut deeper into her arm. Her breath shook, her stomach ached. She had not eaten in 2 days. Simon walked behind her, his fingers lightly touching the back of her neck. "Don't look so scared, girl," he said softly. "You will make some man very happy tonight." The crowd cried out again. For them, this was not mean, it was fun. Eva bit her lip until blood ran down her chin. She looked up, her eyes moving across the faces, searching for one kind person. There was none, only men who saw her as a body, a thing. Then a new voice cut through the noise, low, rough. $75. The room stopped. Heads turned toward the door. A tall man stood there, sun-tanned skin, dust on his boots, a calmness that did not fit the mess. His name was Jant, a rancher from 10 miles away, known to live alone since his wife died years ago. He had just sold a group of cows last week, getting more money than he had seen in years, enough to fix up his farm, or maybe to right a wrong that had bothered him since losing his family to bad men long ago. Simon blinked. $75? Are you sure about that, old man? Jant nodded once. Cash money. The room burst out again, half laughing, half shocked. No one offered more than him. Simon grabbed the money, smiling wide. "She is all yours." Jant walked forward, slowly and carefully. He untied her wrists himself. Then, without a word, he took off his coat and put it around her shivering arms. Her eyes met his for a moment. There was something in them he had not seen in years, something like trust, but fragile like glass. Outside, the wind blew dust across the empty road. Eva stumbled beside him, half in shock, half afraid this was just another trick. And maybe it was, because in Millfield, Kansas, nothing good ever came without a cost. But why would a lonely old rancher spend all the money he had to buy a broken girl he didn't even know? The ride out of town was quiet, too quiet. The wind kicked up dust across the empty path. Eva sat behind Jant on the horse, her arms barely touching his back. She kept her eyes on the skyline, afraid to look at him, scared of what might happen once they got to his ranch. After a few miles, Jant slowed the horse near a group of oak trees along the hill. Their strong trunks made long shadows over the dry grass. "Time to stop," he said. He climbed down and opened the water bottle. Eva paused but followed, her bare feet touching the hot dirt. Jant poured some water into the tin cup and gave it to her. "Drink," he said simply. Her lips were cracked, her throat dry. She took a sip, but her eyes never left his face. Then suddenly, she threw the cup at him, water splashing across his shirt. Jant stepped back, surprised. Eva turned and ran toward the bushes, falling as she ran. "Hey!" Jant called, not mad, just firm. "If you run out there, you won't last a mile in this heat." She spun around, shaking. "You think I'm dumb? You paid for me. Do you think I don't know what happens next?" Her voice broke halfway through the sentence. Jant sighed, wiped his face with his sleeve, and spoke low. "I am not like those men in that saloon, girl. You don't need to run from me." For a long time, she just stared at him. Sweat and tears streaked her dusty face. Jant pointed to the water bottle, still half full. Do what you want, but you will need this more than I do." He tossed it toward her feet and began walking back to the horse. Ava stood still, heart beating fast, the heat pushing on her like a weight. After a few steps, she turned, picked up the canteen, and followed him back. But even as she walked behind him, her mind ran with worries. Men like him always had a price, didn't they? She would keep her guard up, watch for the first sign of betrayal. She did not say thank you, but the way she held the water close said enough. By the time they reached his ranch, the sun was going down behind the hill. The small wooden house stood quiet against the fading sky. Giant helped her down, steady but gentle. "Sit there. I will get you some water." She sat on the porch, body hurting, watching him move around the yard like a man used to silence. He came back with a clean shirt and a tin cup. "Put this on. You look like you've been through bad times." She took the shirt, but changed behind the shed, looking out every few seconds to make sure he was not watching. Trust did not come easily after what she had gone through. Her voice shook. "You paid for me. Now do it." Giant stopped. "No," he said quietly. "I did not buy you. I bought your freedom." She looked at him, eyes wide, not sure what to believe. The desert wind carried the last bit of sunlight across the land, and somewhere deep in his side, she began to think if maybe, just maybe, not all men were the same. The next morning came soft and quiet, the kind of morning that tricks you into thinking the world is a gentle place. Giant was fixing the fence while Eva tried to help, though her hands still shook when she held the hammer. She had slept in a bed for the first time in months and had eaten until she was full. But peace felt strange, like wearing someone else's coat. It did not quite fit. Giant glanced at her sometimes, not saying much. He was not a man of many words, but when he did speak, his voice carried weight. "You keep working, you will learn that breakfast." Eva smiled, the first real smile he had seen from her. By afternoon, the heat rested over the land like a heavy blanket. Bugs screamed from the trees. The air shimmered above the dry grass. Giant filled the water trough while Eva got wood for the stove. For a few hours, it almost felt normal, but peace never lasted long in the West. Back in town, Carter was sitting in the saloon, his pride hurting worse than his wallet. Men joked about the old rancher who paid more than him. He hit his glass down. "That guy took what is mine," he growled. When his two hired men agreed, he stood. "Get on your horse. We are going to see him by sunset." Giant felt the wind change, the kind of silence that comes before trouble. His horse moved fast, ears forward. Eva was inside, washing dishes, singing a tune so soft it barely got to the porch. Giant stepped outside, his eyes looking at the hills. A thin line of dust went up against the orange sky. "Riders." He loaded his old rifle, as calm as ever. Eva noticed his face change and came to the door. "What is it? Are they coming?" Giant nodded slowly. "Stay inside and lock the door. Don't open it unless you hear my voice." She wanted to fight, but something in his voice stopped her cold. The sound of hooves grew louder. 3 dark shapes against the dying light. Carter had found them. He got off his horse, his boots crunching on dried dirt. "Good evening, Giant," he called. "Thought we had unfinished business." Giant stood tall, the rifle easy in his hands. The quiet between them was sharp enough to cut. Eva pushed her back to the wall, heart pounding. She had been owned, beaten, sold, and saved. But maybe the real test of her freedom was just starting. The air was still, the kind of stillness that made your skin feel weird. Giant stood by the fence, the rifle in his hands. Across the yard, Carter smiled meanly under his hat, the kind of smile that came from a man who thought he had already won. Behind him, 2 riders waited, their hands near their guns, their eyes sharp. "Evening, Giant," Carter called out. "You have something that belongs to me?" Giant kept his voice calm. "I don't think I do." Carter came closer, spurs jingled. You think buying her at that sale makes you a good guy? You are no hero. You are just an old fool with money to waste." He spat in the dirt. "Now give her over before someone gets hurt." Inside the house, Eva looked through the curtain. Her heart beat so hard she could hear it in her ears. She wanted to run, but something inside her refused to hide anymore. She had been running all her life, and she was tired of it. Giant lifted his rifle a little. "She is not yours. She's not mine either. She's her own person. You'd better ride back before you make a mistake you can't fix." Carter's smile disappeared. "That girl owes me. She looked me right in the eye when they called my name." Giant shook his head. "She didn't owe you a single thing." The tension broke like thunder. One of Carter's men moved his hand too quickly. Giant fired. The shot echoed off the hills. The bullet tore a cut across his shoulder, and his hat flew off as he fell back, his gun hitting the dirt. Carter's smile turned into rage. He drew his revolver and fired. Giant dropped behind the water trough, the bullet breaking the wood inches from his head. Eva screamed and ducked behind the doorframe. "Stay down!" Giant yelled. "Loading again!" He fired again, the second bullet touching Carter's sleeve, tearing the cloth. The two hired men got scared. One turned his horse and ran. The other froze, eyes wide. Carter cursed. "You just made a mistake, old man. You can't shoot your way out of this." Giant stood still as stone. "Maybe not, but I can sure try." For a moment, the world stopped. Then Eva did something no one expected. She stepped out onto the porch, holding Giant's revolver with both hands. Her voice shook, but her aim was steady. "Leave us alone! You had your chance!" Carter's eyes opened wide. He was not used to being the one scared. He took one slow step back, jaw tight. "This is not over," he said fiercely. Then he turned his horse and rode off, kicking up dust as he went away into the fading light. Giant knew not to relax. The sheriff might come soon, asking about the shots fired, and people like Carter didn't forget a fight. He would likely gather more men next time. Eva put down the gun, her hands shaking. The hired man Giant had shot lay groaning in the dirt, holding his shoulder, not dead, but bleeding badly enough to need a doctor. Giant dragged him to his horse and sent him off with a warning. "Tell your boss, this stops here, or next time it won't." Giant looked at her, half proud, half scared of what almost happened. She met his eyes and whispered, "He'll come back, won't he?" Giant glanced toward the road, the sky turning orange above the hills. Oh, he'll come back. The real question was when. The night came quiet after the fight. The smell of gunpowder still hung in the air. Giant fixed the broken fence post while Eva picked up the empty shells near the porch. Neither said a word. Sometimes silence was the only way two people could breathe again. The stars came out one by one, soft and endless. Giant sat on the porch steps, his arm bandaged where a bullet had scraped him. Eva brought him a cup of coffee, her hands still shaking. He took it, nodding his thanks. "You did well out there," he said softly. She looked down, her voice barely a whisper. "I was scared." "Only fools are not," he answered. Then, after a long pause, he added, "But fear is what tells you you are still living." Eva sat beside him. The night air smelled of dust and pine. For the first time, she did not feel small, did not feel owned. She felt strong. A coyote howled far away. Giant smiled softly. "Guess people know. We made it through another day." Eva smiled. A quiet one, but real. She looked at him and said, "You could have let me go that first night. Why didn't you?" Giant stared at the skyline where the moon touched the hills. "Maybe I saw someone worth saving," he said. "Maybe I just didn't want to die knowing I never did the right thing when I had the chance." The wind picked up, cool and calm now. She reached over, touched his hand gently, And in that small moment, something unspoken passed between them. Not pity, not owing, something quieter, stronger, something that might one day grow into love. Weeks became months. The land healed, so did they. It was not easy. Nights when Eva woke screaming from bad dreams, or days when Yayant looked at the skyline, remembering his lost wife. But little by little, through shared work and quiet talks under the porch light, they built something real. Eva helped fix the ranch, and Yayant learned how to laugh again. He never called her a debt, he called her hope, and that made all the difference. Sometimes life out here was mean, but sometimes it gave second chances to those brave enough to take them. And maybe that is the lesson we all forget too often, that bravery is not just using a gun. It is getting up again when the world keeps hitting you down. It is choosing kindness when anger would be easier.